Hi, welcome to Talking Books and Stuff, the program that talks all about books and writing and stuff. Here's your host, Dennis Rimmer.
And welcome back. It's another edition of Talking Books and Writing and Stuff. And today we're talking a little bit about singing and being a musician and a traveling working musician with the one, the only Heidi Munro, who's based out of Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. Hello, Heidi. Thanks for being with us today.
Hello, Dennis, and it was just wonderful surprise to get your email to do the podcast. Yeah, I'm really, really happy to hear from you.
Well, thank you. And you've been singing, apparently, I do a little research here. Your first public appearance was when you were age 10, and you said your first paid gig was 13 or 14. You got $50, is that right?
I did. I made my first $50, and that was a lifetime ago, and $50 was an incredible amount of money then, and actually it still is.
I know. I don't have $50 in my wallet right now, so. But so how did you? Apparently, you were just singing around the house or something, and one of your parents said, "We got to make this girl a singer."
Yeah, I just music always was in our home. We were, as to say, dirt poor farmers from the prairies, and Mom and Dad moved to Homestead, just outside of a little farming community, Kennedy, Saskatchewan, down south, just down on Highway 48 there, and Dad decided he was going to leave the big city of Regina and get his family out of the city, and he pulled this big old decrepit farmhouse into a piece of prairie, and that's where I grew up, and so Mom and Dad were very involved in music in the city. My mom was an unbelievable piano player. My dad dabbled in guitar, and he wanted to be Elvis till the day he died. God rest his soul. And So all of us kids, my sisters and my brother, we all ended up with ducktails in our hair at some point.
So was it kind of like Daddy sang bass and Mama sang treble and me and little brother would join right in there? Was it one of those kind of things?
Yeah. No, you know what? There was just always rock and roll. Mom would sit down at the piano, and she would start to dabble on some old Everly Brothers songs, and Dad was quite the jokester, and he was quite the comedian, and he was always entertaining and singing, and not it wasn't wonderful all the time, of course, but those are some great happy memories, because when life was a lot simpler then, because even though you only maybe had 2 channels on a good day on your TV if the rabbit ears sat properly, and really not any money to speak of, music was such a huge part of life then, and live music and bands, and it just brought so much joy. And so I started singing very, very early, and I think my first time singing, so to speak, was at a Bible camp outside of Yorkton, Springside Bible Camp, and then like most artists, I started singing church, and then along came the temptation of the secular music, and then and that was it. But yeah, I started very young. I had a wonderful dual partner through high school. His name was Lane Easton, and we were fortunate to perform all over Saskatchewan and a lot of contests. And I'm another really wonderful musician, a wonderful songwriter, artist out of Kennedy is Eli Barcy. her and I rode the school bus together, so, and then Blake Bergeland is also widely known.
Yep.
And he comes from Kennedy too. So, for a very tiny, small farming rodeo community, a lot of music has come out of there. And, wow, fast forward, I guess, through high school, the first, when I went away to college to Winnipeg, I joined a punk band for a few gigs to pay the rent, and came home and formed a band of Lane called Bittersweet. And during that time in high school, I was always entering the CKRM talent search.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and I, the one year, I think I was maybe 19 or 20. I won it in Regina for them, and I went to nationals, and I'd been entering that show for probably since I was about 14 years old.
Wow! And so did you play an instrument as well? Or are you not strictly a singer, but a vocalist by trade?
Yeah, I do play a little bit of guitar and a little bit of piano by ear. I rarely, if ever, will I play on stage because I'm surrounded by such incredible musicians, and it was never required of me. So for me to have to concentrate on that as well, I don't think I could really put on the show and perform and concentrate on my voice, as much as I want to, or as much as I feel the audience deserves. Yeah.
Yeah. And practice. Do you do lots of practice even these days?
Oh, I do. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it is very much like work, and I will say that. But we actually have to rehearse tonight.
Right.
And I have quite a few different projects going. Like I've been fortunate throughout my lifetime to work with very iconic Saskatchewan country musicians like Brian Sklar and Prairie Fire many years ago. I was lucky to win a few Saskatchewan Country Music Awards and some Western Canadian awards, and then I spent a lot of time working with some unbelievable musicians in Prince Albert when I lived there. I spent 25 years in Prince Albert.
Right.
Yeah, and in the days when I first moved there, I think I was probably around 25. Even in little old PA, there was music playing 6 nights a week, and in 2 or 3 different venues. And I was traveling quite a bit playing at that time. And there was circuits out of Edmonton and Calgary, and then they would whip around by PA and Saskatoon and back to Regina to the pump. And,
they don't seem to. They don't seem to have those. They don't seem to have those anymore. Like I remember the 70s and 80s when I was footloose and fancy free. You go to a different. I lived in Vancouver. You go to a different club almost every night, and there was always the circuit of all these guys that went through that became like Prism and Trooper and those kind of things.
Yeah.
Doug and the Slugs, and so. But don't seem to have that anymore.
No. In the venues, and I think a lot of things has affected it. I think people's wages haven't matched inflation. I think a lot of it is the liquor laws. Yep. I think a lot of it is electronic music is really a big thing because they can produce music a lot more economically over a computer. So the live art of it, sadly, I think has been lost a lot. And but there is cities like Saskatoon is probably one of the very few cities that it's still pretty alive. There isn't near as many venues as there used to be, but it's a place to keep quite busy working. And there's lots of kind of artsy musical circles here. Yeah.
And you've been through various combinations, like you were with our next door neighbor in Saskatoon was Colleen Carr. You sang with her a bit.
Actually, Colleen and I go way back to the days of Number One West, to the days of working with Brian Sklar and Prairie Fire. So we were both very young men, and her and I had put together a show called The Tribute to the Legendary Women of Country Music.
Right.
And I've been through. I've done some. I've done work with the Saskatoon Jazz Orchestra. I was very honored to be called to do the Saskatchewan Suite, and that was and the Regina Jazz Society actually produced that, where they brought in musicians from all over the globe that had once performed out of Regina, and it was an absolutely incredible show, and it was a whole production. A musical director and a writer by the name of Fred Stride out of Winnipeg wrote this whole score, and it was just kind of a tribute to Joni Mitchell,
right?
And just all of the Saskatchewan music, like there's music from Buffy St. Marie, there was music, just all of these great artists that had come out of Saskatchewan, and I was very blessed to be the vocalist for that show, and I've worked with I've produced the Passion of Amy Winehouse, which is a really big show. I put together it's called Revisiting a Star Is Born, and it is another really big production going back to
Yep.
Chris Christopherson and Barbara Streisand,
right,
as well as the new one. So.
Yeah, right. And you're also part of Munro and Patrick now. That's just a recent combination.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
Yeah.
How did that come about?
Oh, sorry.
We don't care.
Actually, Scott and I, Scott was from the band Wyatt, and Wyatt did very, very well in the early 2000s. They had deal as well, and so how we got together was we were kind of hired for the same project, kind of because we were working as freelance, artists and musicians as well, and so we got hired for the same project. And then I needed and he's an unreal guitar player, and he sings absolutely fantastic. So I got hired for a job. I can't remember where the job was, and I needed a guitar player. And I think at that time I made him learn a bunch of jazz songs, which he was not a jazz player. and so that kind of terrified him. But as a result, he's come extremely versatile too. And we started writing together. And we just found that it really worked. It just really clicked. And we were so happy with our album, very, very happy with it. And we've been fortunate over the last, even during COVID, and I hate saying that word,
right,
but when a lot of people weren't working, I think the first summer we were able to play, the first June, July, August, we were able to play probably 35 shows. So being a musician is your full-time job? No, it is not my full-time job. We usually play between 3 and 15 dates a month. Anywhere, absolutely anywhere. I also work for the school division as an EA. I've always had that job. I've always tried to juggle a day job, and thank God I did during COVID. And as a mother, I spent most of my parenting years as a single parent, and with 3 kids, there was a lot of times when I had 3 or 4 jobs going on, and I played a lot. I worked with the school division then, and I part-time managed this club. I didn't really sleep a whole lot, but my kids stayed out of jail, and they all played hockey and skated and skied and did all kinds of things.
That's right. If they're not in jail or anything else bad by the time they're 21, then you did a good job.
I did it with a win. I was going, the bar was very high, but but they're all absolutely wonderful. They're doing fantastic. So yeah.
So what kind of warm up do you warm up your voice before you go on stage? What do you do for that kind of stuff?
I do a little, and sadly, and I don't say this very loud, but I've never really taken, formal vocal training. But that being said, I have had to learn what will sustain my voice and what will save it, and what will, just kind of make it have some stamina, because over Christmas, I think it was, we had 4 or 5 back-to-back shows, and we had to drive probably 4 or 5 hours at night, and then there was a couple of days that I actually got up and went to work, and then we had to go play again that night. And I was just utterly exhausted. And, I knew that if I didn't sing a certain way, and if I didn't, I really watched what I drank. I watched what I ate, because those things can really affect your voice as well. You have to kind of baby it because it's your bread and butter.
Yeah, no kidding.
It is, and it's a muscle, and if you needed tools for your job as a plumber, or you needed tools or a dentist tools or a doctor's tools, they look after them and they care for them, and it is the same thing,
Exactly. And what's your advice in a nutshell for aspiring people who were like you were when you were 14 and 15 and just starting out? What can you pass on that you've learned over the years?
Well, as I've gone through quite a few generations of this and seen it evolve, I know that when I was really had stars in my eyes, you were a lot more isolated. It was very, very hard to get the word out and to get known and be seen. And, kids now, the world is their oyster as far as that goes. I think, and therefore the competition is very, very stiff. I still always continue to say this, is that just be unique and be different, and because so many kids start singing and they want to emulate a star and they want to sing like someone, and there already is that person. The world doesn't need another one of them,
right?
Yep. And have the confidence to go after what you want, and you know what? Be prepared to hear 100 no's for everyone, yes, because that's going to happen.
That's what I've heard. Okay. Where can we find your music?
Well, you can actually, Munro and Patrick have their album. We have our album on Spotify, Apple, Amazon. There's some tracks up on YouTube as well. And there's all kinds of videos, of my solo stuff too, like of Heidi Munro and the Real Groovy Band. I think there's almost a pretty lengthy concert on there of a headline performance for the Jazz Festival, actually. And then I have to tell you about this other great show. During COVID, I was really scared for the music industry, and I'd reached out to some really wonderful people that I know, some venues and artistic directors and media and artists. And I'm very fortunate to still have those relationships. And Jack Semple, of course, I've known since I was 14 when he was playing for all those contests. And Chris Henderson and Scott and I started a show called the Acoustic Sessions because we wanted to be able to work in a setting that would follow the guidelines, like big theater stages, but be far enough apart.
All
you
right.
know.
Yep.
And so we started the show called the Acoustic Sessions, and we've been fortunate to perform that show together with all of us, 3 or 4 times a year. And this past year, we actually did a couple of Christmas performances, and we're booking Christmas shows with the Acoustic Sessions with us, and it is just a joy to be on the stage with Jack and Chris and Scott, and the harmonies and the guitar playing is like, whoa, blow you out of the water. Yeah.
Well, we'll have to wrap it up, but we want everyone in the world, because we go around the world and you're up there forever. So look for music from Munro and Patrick. Look for Heidi Munro and the Real Groovy Band. Look for the tribute to Amy Winehouse by Heidi Munro. And also go online and look for munroandpatrickmusic.com and stuff like that. Right? Right.
You know what, Dennis? I want to say thank you so very, very much, and I would like to meet up with you in person one day here soon. It would be great.
It would be, and we'll make that happen.
Thank you for visiting with us today. This is Talking Books and Stuff with Dennis Rimmer. Contact him at dennis@talkingbooks.tk. Thank you, and may all the good news be yours. Oh, and don't forget to check out his book, The Great Canadian Notebook, available across Canada and at amazon.ca.